In the ancient tale of the Tower of Babel, humanity once shared a single language, an unbroken thread connecting every person on Earth. But then, as the story goes, that unity shattered, scattering people into groups who could no longer understand one another. Whether or not such a universal tongue ever truly existed remains a mystery, but we do know that the myriad languages we hear today trace back to far fewer origins. The question is, how did humanity evolve from those common roots into a world of such linguistic diversity? In the early days of human migration, the world was vast, open, and sparsely populated. People who shared a language and culture often split into smaller bands, each group venturing into uncharted lands in search of abundant game, fertile soil, or simply a better life. As these groups settled in far-flung regions, they began to live in isolation from one another, separated by mountains, rivers, deserts, and forests. Over time, this isolation worked its magic, reshaping their languages bit by bit. What began as subtle shifts in pronunciation or vocabulary slowly transformed into entirely new dialects, and then into distinct languages. The process was slow, but inevitable. Centuries passed, and the environments these groups inhabited, what they ate, how they lived, and who they met along the way, all left their marks on their languages. Words evolved to fit the new realities of life, shaped by different challenges and influenced by encounters with other communities. Languages branched off and continued to divide, like rivers splitting into countless streams as populations expanded and spread across the continents. Today, linguists act as detectives of history, piecing together how languages evolved and tracing them back to their common ancestors, often called proto-languages. These ancestral tongues serve as the roots of language families, clusters of related languages that share common origins. A single language family might branch into several subfamilies, each containing numerous languages. By mapping these connections, linguists can reconstruct a story of human communication stretching back thousands of years. But how do they determine which languages are related? Surprisingly, it's not enough to find similar-sounding words. Coincidences and borrowed terms, words adopted directly from other languages, can be misleading. Instead, linguists rely on deeper clues like grammar, sentence structure, and core vocabulary. Basic words, such as those for family relationships, numbers, and pronouns, are less likely to be borrowed and more likely to reveal a shared lineage. By analyzing patterns of sound changes and identifying consistent correspondences, linguists can unravel the evolutionary pathways that link languages, even reconstructing extinct languages that were never written down. Language studies also unlock fascinating insights into the past. By examining which words are native to a language and which are borrowed, linguists can infer where a group of people originated and how they lived. For instance, the absence or presence of certain words for animals, plants, or tools can reveal details about their environment or interactions with neighboring cultures. Language isn't just a tool for communication, it's a time capsule of human history. Yet the work of linguists is far from straightforward. One of their greatest challenges lies in deciding where to draw the line between languages and dialects. The distinctions aren't always clear-cut. Take Chinese, for example, which is often classified as a single language, despite its many dialects being mutually unintelligible. Meanwhile, Spanish and Portuguese, though considered separate languages, often allow speakers to understand one another with surprising ease. These classifications often hinge more on politics, history, and national identity than on linguistic features themselves. This fluidity means that the number of languages in the world is difficult to pin down. Depending on how one counts, Estimates range from about 3,000 to over 8,000. The line between a dialect and a language isn't a hard boundary, but a gradual transition, blurring across borders and classifications. Another challenge for linguists arises as they try to trace languages back in time. The further back they go, the less evidence they have to work with. At a certain point, the trail goes cold, and the major language families we recognize today become the furthest branches we can confidently map. Languages that belong to different families are presumed unrelated, though this assumption might one day change. Some researchers propose the existence of higher-order relationships, or superfamilies, that could connect these seemingly separate groups. While many of these ideas are speculative, they've sparked interest, especially in the study of indigenous languages with small speaker populations that remain poorly understood. Despite these challenges, linguists have made remarkable progress. They've reconstructed parts of ancient languages, uncovered migration patterns, and even shed light on how human cognition influences linguistic structures. Yet, there are some mysteries we may never solve. How did language itself originate? Did all human languages share a single common ancestor, or did multiple languages emerge independently in different parts of the world? These questions linger unanswered among the echoes of our past. Still, even in the face of uncertainty, one thing is clear: language connects us all. Every word, every phrase carries traces of the past, linking us to people and places we may never know. So the next time you hear someone speaking in a language unfamiliar to you, listen closely. Beneath the surface differences, there might be more in common than you'd expect. If you want to get basic overview of anything, provide your thoughts and intentions in comment section. We will provide and serve you, and subscribe our channel to get more information in less time.